Hi everyone, welcome to the stream. Thursday stream, we have Ajax with us, Pierre with us, Luke with us. Welcome, guys. Yeah, good to have you. Yeah, sorry for that indirect. Don't keep the hungry crowd waiting. We had some technical issues we had to deal with before going online. I hope it's solved now, that we don't glitch too much. But you never know, right? You never know. But it seems good. It seems it's working right now. And Roy always with the same jokes. I can appreciate that. But no, I'm not writing last moment questions. We already have the questions and we're going to answer them. Welcome, everyone. There's a lot to discuss today, so I have to be very honest with all of you. I might miss a couple of topics today because I don't think it's going to be possible to discuss everything in the limited that we have. And so we're going to do our best. I'm going to do my best as a host. If I don't say anything correctly or something, there's always Pierre or Ajax or Luke to correct me. So I'm happy for that. All right, guys, look, we have on the thumbnail, we have Farioli. It's actually the biggest news. And some of us saw Nice play yesterday against Paris Saint-Germain. So I think a lot of Ajax fans was also very curious to watch that game. It was also broadcasted on Ziggo in the Netherlands. In general, right? There's so much to talk about possibly Farioli coming to Ajax. It's not sure yet. Of course, we have to keep our fingers crossed because last week we thought it would be Potter, and then during the stream we heard it's not going to happen. So fingers crossed, it's not going to happen the same as last week during the stream. But Pierre, you did your homework, I guess, and I'm wondering whether you're yes or no on Farioli. And before you answer that, before I forget, we will put up a poll for everyone to vote whether there are Farioli in or Farioli out or not coming in, basically. So you guys can vote now or wait until we discuss Farioli and maybe make up your mind. But Pierre, coming to you, Farioli. So tell me, yes or no?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think most of the people are around the yes side at this point, and I'm also a yes side guy. But there's a big if, of course. I mean, he's still very young, and the question is if he is the best option. I'm not sure. I mean, there's quite a lot of options, especially if you're starting to look at non-Dutch coaches. But I do think he's a good option, and especially defensively, we do need some help. And I think he would. The amount of goals we got against us this year, I think it's about 55 or something. I think Nice has conceded about half of that. So that should definitely be a big improvement.
Yeah. So there was a big article, right, on the VI, Football International, big Dutch magazine, basically, football magazine, in which Peter Zwart, who makes or writes up great analysis, he did analysis on Farioli this season. I think everyone read it, basically, each one of us. Let me ask you, what's the one thing that stood out for you when reading that? Pierre.
That's a rough question. There's a lot of things standing out. I mean, he's not as offensive as a Slot or Bos kind of coach, but he does play a high press line. But then again, it's like how Brighton plays when they actually get the ball. They'll either try to make a quick counter or just keep possession of it for as long as possible.
Yeah. Luke, let me go with you on Farioli. And, I'm just doing a round right now quickly, and then we'll deep dive a little bit more on the coach and his playing style. What's your opinion on Farioli? I know that poster of Knudsen is still hanging above your bed.
And Xavi.
I'm sorry.
That's not forever.
Exactly. But maybe Farioli, is there a place for Farioli maybe next to them?
I don't know, because I have to take one of my Knudsen ones down then, when and it's quite rough, that one.
Yeah. No, but Farioli, tell me.
I'm a yes, and I'm a yes because obviously I've seen a little bit in the article that was written. And the thing that stood out for me is that they compare his side to PSV, but not comparing him to Bosch, which I thought was quite interesting. About the movements, he likes to have one side with an inverted fullback and a wide winger. The other side, he likes to have his winger come inside, and so it adds a nice dynamic. And it sounds like it would suit some of our players, especially at the start. But also, I do like the fact that it sounds like he's a control freak and he wants everything to be under control. And that's something we've lacked over the last couple of years, as someone who actually knows what they want to do and has the authority to be able to implement it. Because, I mean, Italians are hardcore, aren't they? They're strict.
Yeah, exactly. Ajax, let me go to you. What do you think?
I think it's quite an interesting option. And I must be honest here, I didn't see Nice play a lot. So I had to do with the article and the things I heard about him. So let me get that out in the beginning. So no eye test for me yet. What I do like from what I read about him is that he is already where he is at his age. That he's very football-minded and technically gifted, also tactically gifted, I mean. So he really has a certain approach to the game and tries to implement that to the fullest. I like that about coaches, that have some cards up their sleeve and know what they want to do with the squad. Something that I'm missing, for example, under Van Schip. Not to talk bad about him and also with his predecessors. So this is something I do like. But what I didn't like and read in the article is that he got compared with Frank de Boer. This is something that I'm not too fond of, that era and the way of play. So also that he was mentioned as a attacking coach and that he focuses on attacking a lot. But in the gameplay, it looks a lot defensively. That try to lure in the opponent and try to combine and then quickly overtake them and score a goal. And that they also had a spell this year of 9 games of opponents that didn't let themselves lure into the trap, and that they had a hard time scoring goals out of a normal situation that you have to create yourself. And if I'm being honest, that is something that worries me, because the Ajax kind of style and the opponents that we face are a lot of opponents that park the bus and that we have narrow spaces that we have to create ourselves. So hopefully this is not something that has to do with his coaching style, but maybe more with the players that he has at his disposal at Nice. So it's an interesting option, and somebody at the age of 35, who is where he is and the way he got there, it's quite interesting. And I like coaches that, live for the game and try to improve and only have that on their mind. So that is something that I do like. So for me, it's a yes overall, but I do have a few concerns.
Yeah, look, it's very hard, right, for us to because we're not experts, let's be honest, on the French league or on Farioli. So let's get that out of the way as well. So we're doing research as well, as much as possible, watching games, etc. It's hard to look, ahead and think like he's going to do well, yes or no. Especially also because he's a non-Dutch coach, right? And we'll come to that in a bit, because there's a lot of criticism already within the Dutch media landscape. But what I wanted to ask you is, can you guys give me like the biggest pro, like the biggest reason why Ajax should really go for him? Because there are a couple of reasons, but what's the biggest one for you, Peer?
I would go with the fact, and I think Peter Zwart called it robot football. There's a very, very big, how do you say this? It's very important to look at structure for Farioli. So structure is the main thing, meaning that players won't have to think too much and can much quicker act on what they're supposed to do. You see that under Stein and Van Schip, they clearly have no clue as to where to play the ball or what move to make. Whereas under Farioli, everything is clear. Everything has a purpose, and they should know what to do by then.
Yeah. So he will be a coach. Whatever happens, he will bring the structure to this squad, right?
Yes.
Next season. Luke, is there anything else? Or maybe, do you agree with Pierre, first of all? And second of all, do you have something else maybe you want to add to that?
Yeah, I do agree with Pierre, actually, because that's one thing that we lack is structure, right? But also at the same time, it's also patterns of play. Right, there are too many times where Taylor, and I'm not doing it to bag on him, but it's the first name I thought of, he might receive the ball in a certain position, but because it looks like we don't practice enough patterns or focus on certain things in a game, he'll look like he doesn't know what he's doing. But you bring in a coach that has a structure, has a certain way he wants to play, and is obsessive with the minor details, which he looks like he is. there'll be situations where, okay, we're wide with the ball. Well, he wants us to do this. Is what we should do. Players should come near, play 1-2. So they'll know what to do in certain situations. And if you look around Europe, and I know we're far away from the likes of the Premier League, but you look at the top teams around Europe, they all have coaches that have implemented certain patterns, right? You look at the big ones, Arsenal, Man City. Obviously, quality is different, but they'll have their own patterns and what to do in certain situations. Barcelona and Xavi in Spain, etc., etc. So, if we can have a coach that actually has a structure and an idea, then I think it would be good for us, and that's a big pro for me.
Yeah, Ajax. Also asking you if you agree whether that's the biggest pro, the things that we have to look for, or whether you want to add something to that before we go to the con, to the other side.
To add something to what Pierre said, is that is one big advantage of that kind of style. You can have certain groups at your disposal and during your career, but if you play and approach the game like he does, there's less freedom, but a lot of things are clear for the players what they have to do. So you can give freedom to certain players that can flourish, and it will be good for your team if they have the capabilities to do that. But if you have a certain style that you always give freedom, but you are ahead in front of a group with players that do not know how to cope with that freedom, don't have the qualities to, carry that out, then you have a problem and you do not see the tactics and you have islands within the pitch. So the advantage with this kind of style, with this kind of coach, is that it doesn't matter if you have those individuals that can carry out and play with that freedom or not, both groups can cope with that because they know what to do and it's framed for them. So this is something that I do like because in the last seasons, I think we've had a certain amount of freedom given by the coaches, and this group isn't ready for that. So better to build up with a lot of structure and carry it out and grow from that point on. And for me, what is also interesting to add is this is a coach that has a clear vision. So not only he wants to carry out certain stuff within the pitch that is already, thought out of for every player, but he also looks like he's able to cope with different situations within the game. So we've had a lot of coaches, and even Ten Hag, if I'm being honest, that I'm always was critical about with his in-game management, but also with the management in at halftime. You have certain coaches that are able to turn things around and analyze the game as it goes. And I think what I read about him, that he is one of those coaches that is able to do that. So this is for me another pre to add.
Yeah, look, usually I don't do this, but I had the chat quickly on the WhatsApp with Roy, who's also here, and I asked him because he gave me a whole list of research that he did today. He was off today, so he thought, you know what, let me just do a little research on Farioli, and he sent me a text why he was Farioli in, and I just want to share it with everyone because usually I don't do this, but it was quite interesting. And don't be bothered. Roy actually gave me permission to do this, so it's not like he's being put on the spot or something. Just quickly, he said, and it's in Dutch, so I'm translating while saying it. So allow me a little bit. He said, what's something that really stands out for me is the way that he tries to build up, and he really puts. He's brave in building up. So basically, what he does, and a lot of people know already. It starts with the goalkeeper. The two center backs are next to him, basically, next to the goalkeeper. So it's a 2-3-2, basically, the way that he builds up. The first line, as I said, two center defenders. They play on the same line, basically. And then you have, in front of that, you have a defensive or holding midfielder. The wing backs are also on the same line as a holding midfielder. And then what you will see is that you have the two midfielders. They're on the middle of the pitch. So then you will see the 2-3-2. Come out, and this gives a very effective way of building up because basically you can do triangles everywhere, and also it allows whether an opponent presses you, there's always an option to get out of the press because of that. Although I have to say as well, just to add to that, yesterday I watched the PSG game, and the PSG game, what was interesting is they played although the star players were not playing, not all of them, PSG is an opponent that's very comfortable on the ball and very good at the ball as well. So that was very interesting to see. And you saw Nice sometimes playing the long ball as well. So it's not like they just keep playing short passes all the time. When they're realistic and they have to, they will play a long ball as well. So I have to mention that as well. And then what he says, like, what's interesting is when the ball goes up front, the wing player will get an assist, will be assisted by the striker. He goes to the wings. He drops a little bit to the wings, creating overload situation, which also means that the midfielders can go into that, like Donny van de Beek or these kind of players. Like there is room to penetrate the box for them. So this is basically a little bit like when it comes to the build-up. In terms of the pressing, I just want to add to that because I saw the game yesterday. And what stood out for me is that even when they conceded the red card, they were still pressing and they were still going for the goal because they had to win the game, of course. It was 2-1. But that was, for me, a couple of things stood out. First of all, their fitness level. It's crazy because they did it the whole game. And second of all, I thought like the pressing was very consistent. They didn't really drop off. Not one player really dropped off and didn't fulfill their task. And of course, you heard Farioli on the side screaming a lot of times. I mean, even through the TV, you can hear him scream like, "Keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing." And I like that because you saw a lot of chances for Nice against PSG from that press. So that's an element that I would really love to bring to this Ajax because we haven't seen this, especially this season. We haven't seen this.
Quite impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, let me go to the con. A couple of like critics, and I will pull up the comments as well. So some people are not very convinced. One of the things, right, is that, of course, I have to bring it up because some Dutch pundits already started with this. The Ajax DNA, the Ajax culture, and I also have someone who said, I will bring it up in a bit, like communication. Does he speak English? How would that go? So what do you guys have to say about that? Is it a concern also for you, or do you have a different view on this? Pierre, you were laughing. You can go first.
Sorry, I just froze for a second.
Yeah, no worries.
I do want to address, I have a couple of complaints just about the whole Rondo interviews and whatever they call it. We all, and at the VE as well, they all do some research. They all look, okay, who is this Farioli? How does he play? Would it be a good fit? Whereas when they ask Van Basten a question, he just says, I don't know. I don't know him. But then why are you there? Like, what input do you bring if you don't know the coach and you're just going to talk about Ajax DNA? It's not really, you can't really make an argument. You can't really start saying, okay, no, you should go for Pascal Janssen or Wim Jong because they're Dutch.
Look, in
is
all
that
fairness,
really good enough?
Yeah, in all fairness, Van Basten was one of the critics. That's true. But to add to that, to give a little bit of context on what Van Basten also said, that's one thing he said, like nobody knows him, or he said something like that. But what he also said is, I don't know if this is the right type of coach in terms of experience that you should get after what Ajax has been through. That's a legit reason, right? I mean,
no, that's a legit reason. But then when they ask him who it should be, he doesn't have an answer either.
Okay.
And the same goes for Sneijder. And even if they have an answer, they'll talk about coaches like Wim Jonk or Pascal Janssen, who have both not even 4 years of experience in coaching as well. So it just doesn't make sense to me. That he's younger doesn't mean he's less experienced. It kind of frustrates me.
But let's be honest, Juan, I'm really fed up with this argument because what is Ajax DNA? Not only that, if you look at the coaches we've had the last decades, the last decade at least, we had Frank de Boer. That's the last one that had Ajax DNA, in my opinion. I'm not saying about his qualities, but DNA-wise. Then you had like Peter Bos, who can, you can say he fits the club with the way he wants to play. But is that Ajax DNA, Even with Ten Hag coming in, did he have a history at the club? Was it something known before that it would be a success? Also with the last coaches, you had Alfred Schreuder, you had Maurice Stijn. Are those coaches that have Ajax DNA? I know Schreuder has a history as an assistant at Ajax, but what about the Ajax DNA of Maurice Stijn? So I'm fed up with the argument that it have to be Dutch and that they talk about Ajax DNA, because Ajax DNA can be looked at it two ways. You have like a history at the club, so you have the Ajax DNA, maybe a former player, or you have a philosophy that fits the club and could go hand in hand with that Ajax DNA, that is a good fit. So why does it have to be a Dutch coach if the Ajax DNA isn't there, like history-wise? It could as easily be a foreign coach. So that argument that it has to be a Dutch coach, it's just nonsense. I'm really fed up with that, because the last two that they appointed, and even with all due respect to John van Schip, that got us to this 5th place, who has the Ajax DNA, it isn't all peaches and cream, man.
Yeah, we'll come to that later after this. We'll
No,
talk
but
more.
it's exactly like he says. It's not like all of the Ajax DNA coaches have performed. There's two you failed to mention, which are John Heitinga and Marcel Keizer, which haven't performed either.
I know, those are interim coaches, same with John van Schip, but coaches that were appointed as a head coach, not to.
Yeah, but Keizer was a head coach, right?
Yeah, he was an interim. Yeah, Keizer was head coach. Yeah, that's true.
I'm agreeing with that one. Yeah.
And he didn't perform either. I mean, it wasn't the worst football I've ever seen, but it's just too easy to say Ajax DNA will fix everything.
Yeah. Luke, I want to go to you because, look, I don't mean it in the wrong way. Don't get it the wrong way. I know you're learning Dutch, but still you're a foreigner looking in a little bit, you know, and following Ajax, of course, your club. Pierre is laughing, but I don't mean it that way. I'm respectfully just asking you, from outside looking in, you've been following also these debates, you know, and also these pundits and stuff here. And I believe this is, of course, very different from the UK, right?
Actually, what you're saying, Luke, it's the same with the coaches. We only value if you're like Dutch heritage, you know, not foreign.
No, what I'm trying to ask you,
with us, you know.
Yeah, Luke, what I'm trying
he
to ask
doesn't have Ajax DNA. I'm not sure about this.
I'm trying to ask you, you know, does it struck you like very strange how we deal, or how Ajax deals with this, you know, successions of coaches and people?
Yeah, I don't get it, but at the same time I get it, because England was only really exposed to total football or that kind of philosophy until Pep came over. You had Arsene Wenger trying to implement it 2007, 8, 9 when he started doing the 4-3-3 with Fabregas and things like that. And that's when Barcelona were dominating. So that's when you really first saw, in my opinion, someone trying to play attacking 4-3-3 with the same kind of ideas as Barcelona, who got it from Cruyff, etc., like that. But we only really saw glimpses of total football when Pep came over, when he really, not when he first started, but when he started bringing in his own players. That's when you really thought, wow. Now every team tries to play from the back. It is ridiculous. Every team tries to do position play. Now every team defends in the low blocks. It's the only way you can defend against City, and it makes the most boring matches, right? So, but I don't understand this whole Dutch coach thing, because you look at the amount of coaches that I've learned from Guardiola, from Cruyff, from, you know, etc. Look at Arteta. Arteta's first job at Arsenal, and look how he's doing. He learned from Guardiola, who obviously played on the Cruyff and that, you know. And then you look at De Zerbi, whose idols per se might be Guardiola, might have been Bielsa, etc. And then he's passing it down to Farioli and other coaches. So it's like, it's not just because you're Dutch, because you're not Dutch doesn't mean you can't have the same ideals or have a footballing brain. And it's such a ridiculous argument from old bitter men that haven't got their pastime anymore. And Van Bassen's probably still upset that he, you know, had such bad ankle damage and 99 surgeries. He was never a player again, you know. And Schneider's just bitter and all those kind of things. But, you know, in England, we look at a manager, what do you bring, as opposed to what nationality are you, you know. And that's always been the case, but mainly now you kind of look at more intricate things about a manager ever since Pep came over. But the way he coaches, everyone wants a Pep or a Klopp now. You know, look at Brighton. They saw things in De Zerbi that obviously he's learned from things from Guardiola or from here everywhere, and look how they play and they're happy with them. You know, so
it's actually quite simple, because it all comes down to Cruyff, and Cruyff is Ajax. So
it does.
You know, the circle is full in that regard.
How much, guys, Pierre and Isaac, let me ask you this. How much is it, you know, these critics, you know, like we heard from Johan Derksen, we heard from Sneijder, we heard from Marco van Basten already. How much is it, especially when it comes to Sneijder and van Basten, maybe Sneijder more, and also other pundits, that it's not really about that. They say that they want the Ajax DNA and Ajax culture and these kind of things, but they want to have somebody they know, because then they're involved, they have some information, which also relates to the Telegraaf. The Telegraaf is always like, oh, we don't have any sources coming from Ajax, then were against them. It's basically, it comes to that as well, right? We have to be
We also
realistic.
saw it with Telegraaf with Mislintat, also a foreigner. They had their stance immediately, and the opinion is different about him, of course, because of what happened. In hindsight, it's easy always, but this is the problem. And with Van Basten as being critical and voicing his opinion as a pundit, he should be silent in this. In this subject, because he has Ajax DNA. He was in front of that group. He effed up, So maybe it's better to just be silent than be this vocal about it.
In all honesty, he's being paid to say something about it. So.
Yeah, I know. But with his history, come on.
Yeah. All right. Go. I want to go to. Sorry, Pierre. You want to react? I want to go to the comments, but go ahead if you want to say something.
Yeah, I still kind of wanted to say something. I do have a lot of respect for Van Basten. I actually think he's tactically not that bad. I'm just disappointed that he didn't really read up on Farioli and actually made some real arguments. I feel like the bubble around there is so strong, telling them that we need Ajax DNA and we need players like them back at the club, that they're just starting to believe it more and more rather than take a step back and see what's going on and really analyze what the club needs.
Yeah. All right. Can I go to the comments quickly, guys? Yeah?
Sure.
All right. Steve is saying, can't say that I'm positive about Farioli. Nice creates few chances and scores less. 5-4-1 is also a system. Farioli isn't ashamed to play. Then Roy counters or reacts to Steve, says Farioli doesn't play in a 5-4-1. Also, the what's it called again? The expected goals. Thank you for that. Expected goals is much higher than you would expect. The strikers from Nice just refuse to score more goals. We saw it yesterday, by the way.
Could I react to that really quick?
Course,
because I really appreciate Roy, but I don't really agree because they do somewhat play a 5-4-1 at times.
Yeah.
The defensive midfielder often drops back into the back line when they're defending, and they'll stand really low on the field.
True.
So it is true, but it's not as defensive as it sounds. It's a bit more counter-attacking oriented when they defend. That's true.
Yeah, but the counter-attack comes from the fact, as far as my recent memory is from yesterday, of course, but the counter-attack comes from the fact that they press very deep or high up the field, and they try to force the opponent to make a mistake.
Yeah, but if it doesn't work, then they'll fall back into this 5-4-1 kind of formation.
That's true.
And then they'll just try to defend, take the ball back, and build up from the back. Also, with a lot of defenders and players low on the field, they're just trying to bait the opponents. So it will end up looking like a 5-4-1 at times, but it's not just defensive.
Yeah, Ajax, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I want to touch upon it. They switched to that kind of formation with that central defense midfielder dropping back, so that their backs or one of their backs can go up, and they still can be in a 4-man defense. So it may appear sometimes as a 5 in the back, but it's also to give the creative freedom to carry out the load that is necessary on that side backs to go forward. And with that midfielder dropping back, you have the balance again. So
especially now that they have a player that used to play in there at Division, I think he was a 6. I can't remember his name, but they play him a right back now. I've seen. So if I really like, sorry.
Isn't it Rosario?
I think so. And he was a 6, no? Or at some point, right?
I think so.
Yeah, but he still sometimes plays as a 6 and sometimes as a fullback, and
but he
he's
when
all
he plays
over the
fullback,
place.
Exactly, but he comes inside, So it's not like he's playing left back and right backs who are just quick defenders or wingers that just go up. He's actually having them, a 6 might drop in into the back 3, but then that right back might come into midfield because he's higher up or closer to the ball, so then he'll press the ball kind of thing, So it's all just, it's as and when on the pitch, and I don't mind that.
Perfect. Yeah, if he does it one-on-one with Ajax, Wrench would be perfect for that, right? As a right fullback coming in as an inverted.
For now, yeah.
All right. Let me see. There's a lot of arguments going on between the viewers, so I'm just skipping those quickly. And then I have here, Finn is saying Nice fans wanted Farioli out, and he plays defensive football, inexperienced, and does not understand the Ajax culture. Clear failure, tired of our board. And he said also, when was the last time a foreign trainer won in the Netherlands? I think it was Steve McLaren.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right?
At
Yeah.
FC Twente. You're right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a non-argument for me because tell me, I want to hear some statistics then from the top 3 teams. How many foreign coaches compared to Dutch coaches did we have in the last 20 years? I know Roger Smith at PSV, but I can mention a lot at the big 3 at least. So yeah, it's an easy argument to make. How many? What was the last time that a foreign coach won something in the Netherlands? But how many times were they in a position at a big club to actually win something in the Netherlands? Because if it's only Dutch, it's an easy argument to make.
Yeah. Finn has also asked, so this is his 3rd comment. He's saying, I have a problem. We have Potter, Farioli, and Ten Hag on the list who all play differently. What are we trying to get to? Surely you look like for similar coaches. So what's the profile we're looking for? I think, honestly, this one, I was also curious about that we went from Potter to Farioli. It doesn't seem like a similar type of profile coach. Did you guys think about that maybe?
No, I actually think they're quite similar.
You do?
too. Yeah.
Yeah? All right. Okay, then I won't say anything. I'm just hosting here. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, they like to play up
Say something.
from the back. They're struggling with park the bus teams.
All right.
No, they're struggling with teams that park the bus. That's basically the same, and they like to build up from the back. So I don't know. I see a lot of similarities. I kind of
But
understand.
he
But,
don't use those teams a lot, man.
They're
I'm sorry?
obsessive as well.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you another question. What's not the similarity between those 2 coaches then, in terms of playing style?
Maybe the fact that I think I mean I've seen Potter more than I've seen Farioli, but from what I have seen and what I've heard, I feel like Farioli will stick to his guns a lot more and will really ride his way of playing right to the end. And I think Potter will be more inclined to change a whole shape in order to, because he sees a weakness or something like that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. And the formation is obviously different, but the style of play has a lot of similarities.
All right.
As far as I can judge, their personalities are miles apart, but I could be wrong. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I read something like that as well. Potter is more laid back. Farioli is very.
Look at his coaching style at the sideline.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Nickname is saying Farioli himself said that the quality of the players will never dictate the game plan in his team, so it doesn't matter. He will make them play like he wants them to play.
And can I react to this? Sorry, this is what we were talking about when players come up from young. Yeah, from young Ajax. It's like we don't have a side that's stable, or it's always just free flowing where there's not a smooth transition for players coming up, right? So then when players like Hodgson come up, because the tactic will be the same, and hopefully the tactic will be the same in Young, and he'll be able to have a say to an extent. They'll have a seamless transition coming up because you wouldn't have to have a certain skill set anyone could fit in at any point, right?
Yeah.
As long as they understand.
Yeah, it's
the
like
system.
Ajax said, of course. Like experience doesn't matter as much when you have a clear structure. You don't need to rely on your experience to make certain decisions. The decisions are kind of made for you.
Yeah. All right. Good points, by the way. Indirect is saying, if Farioli comes and is successful, then how many seasons will he stay? Not really a solution for Ajax if he leaves like Bos after 1 season.
Yeah, but that is an argument that you can say for every coach that is successful.
Well, hold on, because I agree. It's difficult to. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, and it's very difficult to say those things like in advance. But look at Nice now. He's been quite successful relatively this season, and he's making. He's jumping maybe to Ajax already, or maybe another club. We don't know yet 100%. But what does it say? I mean, if he comes to Ajax as a foreign coach, it's different when you're a Dutch coach, in my mind. Maybe you have a tendency to stay longer at Ajax because you realize how big Ajax is. It's not always clear-cut with foreign coaches. Or am I saying something wrong here?
It's also maybe the way the Dutch coaches presented themselves last decade, for example. So you can be more considered a hot thing if there are many coaches coming from, your country. And now with Ten Hag and now Slot also going to the Premier League, it's maybe easier for Dutch coach to make that leap. But if you're a foreign coach that is there, with the different nationality and stuff, it's maybe easier to go abroad from Holland again. It's something to do with it also. But I think if Ten Hag stays and Slot does well at Liverpool, then it will be easier for Dutch coaches to also make that leap, because then people will start looking into the Dutch way of football more and trying to poach maybe another hot thing from Holland.
Yeah, I never really appreciate this topic because, he will sign for 3 years, and if he's good, we'll just keep him. It's as simple as that. If he's really good and we want to keep him, we'll keep him, or we'll get a lot of money for him. But either way, it's a good situation, I'd say.
Yeah.
But this is also a thing with really quick with Ajax and the Eredivisie is, unfortunately, the way the league is and the way the teams are, they struggle to compete with at least the top 3 leagues. So, any player, any coach that gets any interest shown in him from Bundesliga, La Liga, Premier League, whatever, you're gonna have your head turned and want to then make the next step up, because it's his career as well. At the end of the day, he wants to be the best coach. Every coach does. You're going to want to coach in the best leagues and coach the best teams. So it's inevitable for it that he's not going to be there for 10 years, or 3 years might be enough for him to prove his point or show what he can do, and then be gone. And then there'll be another coach ready. It's just the way football is, isn't it? So it's not really a good argument.
Yeah. FC Lawrence is saying they play a 5-4-1 only in defense. That's true, but in attack they don't play it. The reason for the 5-4-1, according to Farioli, is so that players can step up more and press without leaving gaps. All right. Mihu is asking, is Kivu a good option for Ajax coaching staff?
For everything, anything.
Yeah, Kivu is a legend.
I think we're all for this. We just want him at Ajax. I don't even care if he's just shaking hands. I'm all for it.
That's Van Schip's new role.
Yeah,
shaking hands.
I'm hearing somebody saying that the preliminary? The Dutch players have been. It's now clear who they are, and Berwijn is there, and Brobbey is there. Probably, I saw a comment like that. Maybe somebody can help me out with this. I saw a comment coming here, and then, just check for me if that's possible. And then, let me see. Oh, there are a lot of comments, guys. It's crazy.
It's quite tough. We're gonna miss a lot of players during the preliminary rounds. We're definitely gonna miss Brobbey. I think we might miss Berwijn. I think it's good that we won't miss Hato. I guess that's good news.
Is it because
we'll most likely miss Soetelo?
Overlapping? No, right? It's because they have vacation, probably. Then, right?
No, the thing.
Yeah, they have vacation. I think the Euro start 1st of July, something around there. And we have to play, I think, 26th of July, so they'll still be on vacation.
In which round are we? Are we at the final preliminary round, or do we have to win one before that?
No, we have to play 2 rounds.
I think we have to win one before that.
Is it still possible to drop out of Europe entirely if you lose the first one, or you're dropping to the Conference League then?
No, you can.
I'm not sure.
I think you can drop entirely.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think you can, but I think you'll play another Conference League round first, to be honest.
Exactly. If you lose everything, you can still drop out. That's basically also.
Yeah, okay, but if you lose the first round, you're not out immediately, right?
Well, that I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, all right. Millennium was saying, besides the coach, we needed to get rid of useless players. Even a best coach cannot get results with Taylor and Ranch. Defensive idiocracy and not consistency will be crucial. Get rid of those players. We'll come to Taylor in a bit.
You know what, Juan? And in the meanwhile, when you're looking up things,
the thing
that does sounds right to me about Farioli is, and the situation that we are in, we need somebody that has a clear vision and brings structure. And this is a coach that does that, his structure, but it is necessary that we build up something new that we can, build upon for the next year. So even if he does well and leaves after 2 years, maybe he can build a new fundament for our club to build upon and carry out for the years after, because that is necessary at the moment. And if you put somebody there that doesn't have a clear vision or give a lot of freedom, in this group that we have at our disposal at the moment that misses certain leaders and doesn't carry out the identity that is necessary for the team, you have to have a firm somebody there that just, has his hands on everything, the hands-on mentality. So this is something that I do like, man. So did you have enough time now to look up your questions?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting comment from Anthony. He's saying AC Milan, also made contact with Nice. Yes, and what I also heard, I think Sahbi mentioned that in our chat yesterday or the day before, I don't remember, this week, that Milan is also interested in Gallardo, because Gallardo is no longer coach in the Middle East. So you know what? If Milan ends up with Farioli, we'll end up with Gallardo. It's fine. It's no problem. So we can make a switch.
Didn't Gallardo decline us 2 seasons ago or a season ago?
Did he decline us? Really decline us?
I think he did. But
we want to go to Ajax, so.
But I do think it was as in the middle of the season.
Okay.
All right. Jamie is saying we have to play 3 rounds. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was 2 rounds.
The last time that we had to play 3 rounds in a preliminary round was
don't say it. Don't say it.
Was it the season of 18-19, man?
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I mean, that will also mean that we'll end up with another Ras van Marien.
Ah, that's good.
Oh man! All right. I think okay. We have one question. Maybe I think this basically is everything about Farioli. I don't know if people have questions that they want to ask us about Farioli still, but we can move to the next topic. But this was not one of them. But I saw this this question, so maybe we can just deal with it right now. Do you guys think that Henderson and even Berwijn should stay with Ajax next season? Quick round. Peer? Henderson and Berwijn.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Berwijn, I would say no, sell him for the money because we need the money. Henderson, depending on the salary, I don't know what he earns, and depending on if Farioli thinks he will play.
Yeah. Luke?
Same as Pierre.
Ajax?
Yeah, we're touching upon Henderson, I think, in a bit, right?
Yeah, we can bridge that now. Yeah, that's fine.
That's why I'm saying bridge it. But for me, as it stands now and what I read in the media and the things that he spoke about, I'm leaning more towards selling Henderson. And it's because 2 things. I think he's not bringing enough to the table, at least on the pitch, to be of value for us, besides his coaching. And also what baffled me is with his salary and the people spoke about and the board spoke about that he would be a figure for us also outside the pitch. Him going to England and staying there to recover from his injury and not being part of the group here in Holland and helping out the team is weird for me with that salary, because I read that he stayed there for a few weeks to recover there. And if you're signed for a big salary and you're one of those figures that have to bring the mentality back as a professional and you're staying there to recover, that is not something that sits well with me, to be honest.
This one is
hard. I'm
hard.
not sure. I wasn't sure if that was true because I saw the picture of him training at Liverpool, but that was a fake. So then I didn't realize.
If it's
I'm
fake,
not sure.
And I'm fooled, but I read it in mainstream media that in an article somewhere, I can't remember which site, but not like on X or something, that he recovered for a few weeks in England. So maybe that media got fooled by certain messages. I don't know, but it was not a fake site or something. It's one of the.
It's a little bit of a normal thing though with the culture in England. I don't know what it's like in the Eredivisie, and also depending on how bad his injury was. Sometimes when they have to go to a certain rehab, they spend a little time at home. I don't know. It's just an English culture thing, whereas some players go back to where they are. Even foreign players sometimes they'll go back to Argentina for a few days or whatever. I think if he has done that, it's just an English thing, like a Premier League thing.
Yeah, the thing that struck me the most, because we're referring to an article that came out from The Athletic first, but then VE also came with more or less a similar story, is that Henderson was signed, of course, to bring some kind of experience to lift the team up, and at that time, we were hopeful that we could still compete for the Champions League spot, for the 3rd place, or maybe 4th or stuff like that, and maybe he thought that as well. Maybe he thought like he could, bring or have an impact to this team. And maybe he's looking now in hindsight and he's thinking like it didn't work, but also there are reasons for that.
Yeah, but that's unprofessional on its own. Because
Okay.
you're brought in to do something and you're failing at that, at least do not state certain stuff in the media that has a negative impact on already a difficult situation at the club. At least be silent about it and try to figure out what you, as an individual, as a mature player that has seen everything, can do to improve that structure and that situation at the club. But no, then you state something in the media like that has a negative impact in a difficult situation already, that we have a lot of stuff happening this season. Outside the pitch, in the board, everything. I cannot understand that, man. So
Yeah,
I think you're
he's a
right.
bit...
But it's
Sorry,
also
there
kind
you
of
go.
rough since, no, don't worry. It's also kind of rough to, make an argument about it. I do kind of understand where he's coming from. If nobody's listening to you and there's a clear lack of professionalism at the club, which I do truly believe there is, then it's kind of annoying that people don't respond to that, and you're going to try to make it known another way, I guess.
Is that something that you're guessing, or is it something that you know? Because I do not know that they are not listening to them or that they do listen to them. That's hearsay for me.
That's true, but there's still no structure on the field.
That's true. But instead of talking about it in the media, focus on changing something that can really matter for maybe instructing the younger guys or being a role model outside the pitch, whatever. What does it say to other players in the team? That it is okay to be critical towards your club in the media?
Yeah, no. It's obviously not good, but I do get where the frustration is coming from.
I understand him, but it's just not professional.
With Henderson, there's a whole thing that he's only used Ajax to get out of Saudi Arabia, which kind of thinks, how much do you actually want to go to Ajax? There's rumors that if he would have went back to the UK, he'd have had to pay so much tax. So that might be a way of him going to the Netherlands. He escapes all that, is able to go back. So he may be saying all these things just to, Ajax didn't like me anymore, and make it seem like, he's been pushed out. Do you know what I mean?
So there's an ulterior motive, basically.
Do you know what I mean? So, I'd hope he's not that kind of person. I'd hope he'd carry himself a lot better than that. But he's also the same guy, that is a bit off track. But he said all these things about the LGBTQ community that he was supporting, and then went to Saudi Arabia, which is what everyone criticizes him in England for.
Yeah.
So, he might have other ulterior motives. You never know. Money is a powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. How happy are you that he's called up for the Euros?
He won't play. Bellingham and Rice are too good.
All right, that was just an off topic. That was just off topic. Coming back to Berwijn, just quickly. What was interesting is that after the game against Almere City, so we're going to that right now. We're not going to talk about the game. I just want to reflect back on some of the things that were said by Berwijn, also by Van het Schip, and we can talk about that briefly. About Berwijn, so Berwijn got the question about this season and maybe next season, whether he's staying, yes or no. And he had something interesting to say. He said, this season was difficult because he wasn't always fit. That's one. Second of all, he became a dad. So that also came in between. So he hasn't been able to really showcase what he's capable of. But he said, if I'm fully fit, you guys know what I'm capable of. And then at the same time, for next season, he said, I'm happy here in Amsterdam. I'm happy here at Ajax. But it also has to do with the plans of the club, whether they have a vision, whether the Ajax DNA or Ajax culture will come back to the club. What do you guys make up of this? And at the same time, also a couple of days later, I saw Fabrizio Romano tweeting or mentioning that Berwijn could leave at £20 million already this summer. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that's a little bit less than what we paid for. So all things combined, Ajax, how do you see this?
I think it's a shit argument that he became a dad, because which kid is this for him? Is fourth or something?
Second, I think.
No, man. I already saw two walking on the pitch with him that are
way older. Oh, I thought it was second. I'm sorry. Okay.
Those are way older than if you became a dad this year. So okay. It must be his third or fourth. So that's a non-argument for me, A lot of footballers become a dad, and if you are giving those arguments to cover your performances, it's just bad, especially as a captain. Do not want to be negative all the time, but also with Berwijn with this interview, I'm not happy with it. You know, just be fit and focus on your football and not go give external arguments what may be a reason that you're not fit. So becoming a dad is a valid reason now that you're tired or whatever. Fuck that, man. Come on. You get paid too much for that to be that a valid argument to, you know, not performing. And if you compare that, for example, to a Tadic, the way he handled certain situation, the way he handled himself in the press, and what he asked of himself as a professional and from the team, it's miles apart, man. It's just disappointing.
Just to add to that, Ajax, nickname is saying, I think Berwijn mentioned there were complications and they had to go to the hospital a lot as well.
Okay, I didn't know that. Then I take back my words, because if you have a complicated situation with a newborn, that is something entirely else. So if that's the case, then I take back my words. But that's not what I read in the article, at least. So if that's the case, it's a totally different situation, because if you have complications with your child, it's just not easy. So
look, yeah, thanks, Ajax. Per, Luke, I want to ask you something. You guys can react to that article if you want, or not article, but to the interview. But I want to ask you a slightly different question, and I don't mean it to be sarcastic or anything like that, but he's been here for 2 seasons now, Berwijn, 2 full seasons. How many good games did he play?
4.
And they were all in the first month, I think.
Yeah, and then 1 against Almere, and that's it.
Only one, right?
Okay, no, but there's a follow-up question coming, because the reason why I'm asking that is because most Dutch football fans, or maybe Ajax fans, they know that he's always been one of the talents. You know, he has quality. We know what he can do, but it's all potential. We're always thinking about what he can do, but he's not really showing that. So I'm always questioning whether will it ever come out? Will we ever see what we think Berwijn can do?
I think, if I'm being honest, if you compare, for example, the Berwijn at PSV and the way they play and the way we try to play, he's more of a PSV kind of player that can play counter-attack and has a lot of room in front of him that he can utilize, at least in that era that he played there, than what he has now at Ajax, because he's in a narrow space and he has to create room from himself. And I know back then in that PSV era, he was running a lot. He was sent deep, you know, could score and utilize his strength more. And now he's always in a narrow space with a difficult situation. I just don't think he's unfortunately, a great fit in the way we try to play.
How about if Farioli comes in? Would he be a fit then?
Difficult to say.
I think he might. I think with a different system, I always feel like Berwijn in England was a system player. Like if players are playing well, he looks good and he plays well, right? Because he's getting amongst of it, but he can't change a game. The amount of times he scored goals for Tottenham, but they were like at the end of a 4-1, so he made it 5-1 or something. But he was able to, because there was less pressure on him to score these goals, right? He wasn't responsible for a lot. And I always feel like if there was a correct system in place where everyone is able to perform to a similar level, I'm not saying everyone's will get 10 out of 10s every game, but if everyone's playing consistently at the same level, I don't see why he can't, because he feeds off other players' confidence and things like that. You know what I mean? So it's 50-50 though as well, because he makes some stupid decisions sometimes. So
I think also the captaincy is a heavy load for him, because I think he already has a difficult time performing as a quality player and one of the star players of the team. But maybe making him the captain and giving him that extra load on his shoulders to also carry out that role is maybe something too much for him this season. So I think it was a bad decision making him a captain. Not that he maybe doesn't have the potential to be one in the future, but now in the situation that he is in and his form, it wasn't the smartest thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, sorry guys. I usually don't laugh at these type of personal hits on players, but this one, I'm really trying not to laugh really loud. So, I'm sorry. Anyways, he didn't look fit. I'll be honest with you. I said that to Popimento a couple of times throughout recent weeks. He looks much fitter than a couple of weeks ago. You can clearly see it on his face, and like he lost a lot of weight. It's
again, I have to look into his personal situation, because maybe that has a lot to do with it, if it's true what has been said in the chat.
Yeah.
But he does look fit, and the way he performed last match, he looks a little bit slimmer, more in shape. So yeah, that's also something that makes a difference in these situations. It's Martians, and even with the body, it can be of a crucial difference.
Well,
It will be very interesting to see him under Farioli, because he does prefer the vertical passes to play faster on the field, and that would help Berwijn. But then again, Farioli also likes players that can carry the ball, and I'm not sure whether Berwijn is still fast and agile enough for that. I think Gods might be better in that kind of situation. So it's a 50-50.
Don't you think he can do that in the Eredivisie?
I'm not sure. Like, he could do that at PSV. He could do that, but I haven't seen it in so long. I haven't seen him actually dribble, like a good dribble, in such a long time.
You have to look at the standards we have to compare to, and we compare it to Gods, don't we? We look at the way Gods dribbles, and that's the way you want him to dribble, isn't it? And it's crazy. Young players come in, and when he starts running at men, we're like, wow, what is going on? Because we haven't seen it that.
Let's be honest, Gods has that potential, but he doesn't have like the ability yet to carry out the speed and be technical at the same time. It's too much.
How much is it? Because how much is it just stamina level and fitness level? He has to mature into that playing first team football.
But the potential is obviously there, but it isn't clicking as a whole yet for me. But I do like to see more from him. And about those dribbles, Pierre, I think that last goal was quite a good dribble by him, right? He passed a lot of
it was decent, but it was quite a straight dribble, and nobody was really in his way. So I'm not sure still. I also believe we can get quite a bit of money for him, and we could buy a player that better suits the role. That's probably it. And we obviously need to strengthen the squad in other places.
Yeah, sorry, Ajax, go ahead. Quickly, guys, because I have to move on.
Yeah, probably him and Akpom will be our most valued assets to maybe sell. Or somebody must be crazy enough to offer for Taylor what he's been, valued by the media. He was very high up the list.
66 million.
Yeah, so if over that, he's gone.
We'll come to Taylor in a bit. Hold what you guys both said, Pierre and Ajax, about the valuable players, because I have a question following up on that one. But first, let me go to the comments. So Jamie is saying 4 games indeed. So he's confirming basically what Pierre said. BRN is saying, I'm still 50-50. When Berwijn is fit and clear in his head, he's the best left winger in the Eredivisie. When we signed him, I really thought at the time, Berwijn, he would just destroy the Eredivisie. That's really what I thought. So,
do you remember was it the beginning of this season that was it last that somebody from the media asked, are you already done with the Eredivisie? In Dutch he said, heb je het uitgespeeld? Do you remember that? That interview was at the beginning of this season or less? I don't know anymore, but it's quite funny in hindsight.
Siggy is actually saying there has just been some breaking news. Shareholders of Ajax wants an extra investigation on the misconduct matters. Mike Verwij just tweeted this. All right. Why would they want an extra investigation?
I'd rather
because probably the investigation that was held was not very, very well done or very well.
I mean, they can't put any blame on him now. So I guess if you investigate again, they might find something to put the blame on him.
It's quite weird, because they didn't interview him, and also not Eringa, who has a big part in that era, misconduct. So that's quite weird, right? To investigate something and then not hear those parties.
Yeah. Guys, I have to move. BRN is saying maybe Farioli can really get the most out of him, so out of Berwijn, but it's once again a gamble. Jamie is saying, Juan, look at Berwijn when he scored against Utrecht with his debut with PSV and the Berwijn right now. Yeah, fully agree. I mean, we know. That's why, And then Biran is saying, I agree with Ajax. That's good for Ajax. Good for him. Good for his confidence level as well.
Finally, somebody agrees with me.
Indrik is saying Berwijn is never a captain, in my view. Yeah, I think we all agree with that. And also Millennium is saying, I think I agree with that too. Fitness level was not good the whole season. Pavimento, not always the very fond of Berwijn, is saying, ha ha ha, a fitter Berwijn, and still Akpom had better rush on his side, on the wing. Okay. Jamie is saying the only true captain constantly plays when he's fit is Hendo. Branco could be a captain too. A lot of good interviews, but he barely plays. We'll come to that too. We'll talk about Branco in a bit. BRN is saying, can you imagine Sahraoui from Heerenveen under Farioli? What do you think, Pierre?
Yeah, that would be good. He's one of my 3 favorite options for the left wing, I think. It's either him.
He's good at Heerenveen, but don't you think it's maybe, or do you really think he can make that jump to Ajax?
Yeah, I think he's very underrated at Heerenveen, actually. I mean, he hasn't scored as many goals and assists, but he has to all do it by himself because his teammates are not great. I think if you combine him with Robbie, I think he'll get a lot of assists. I don't see it going that wrong, to be honest. The question is if he's not too expensive. I think Heerenveen will ask a lot of money for him.
What is a lot, in your view?
Well, like 12 million.
All right.
Soleimani kind of money.
Nickname is saying, Sven sent all the money to my Bitcoin wallet, so you'll never get it. Well, good for you then. And then, all right, this is off topic. Weghorst in the provisional squad. Can you guys let me know, is it only Brobbey and Berwijn from Ajax in the provisional squad? Let me know.
I'm not sure. The only reason, by the way, that Weghorst is in the squad is because Luc de Jong doesn't want to be in the squad. Exactly.
Because let's be honest, Weghorst had an important part at the last tournament, against Argentina, and he scored a few goals also in the last games coming in. So I fully understand bringing him as a pinch hitter kind of guy when it's necessary. So it's not that weird for me, to be honest.
And it's very good at annoying the opponent as well. So
yeah.
All right. Okay. Coming back to the So Jamie is confirming. Thank you for that. Berwijn and Brobbey in the provisional squad. Okay.
That's actually good news. I like that they didn't take Hato.
Yeah. So the bridge. The question I wanted to ask you: the most valuable player. Fabrizio Romano also tweeted about Arsenal still interested in Hato and following and scouting Hato. And Luke is smiling, but you shouldn't be smiling, Luke, because your heart lies with Ajax. As you know, but no. The question is like, it seems like Arsenal has been linked consistently in the last few months with Hato before he signed, but also after he signed, they're still interested. Is there like a scenario that you would think of that Ajax would say, you know what, we need the money because we have some financial restraints at the moment. Let's sell Hato for a huge fee. If Arsenal is willing to pay that, of course, and then we can reinvest in the group, in the squad. What do you guys think?
I don't think Arsenal is willing to pay. I think they want to pay a timber amount, and they're never going to get him for a timber amount.
So 40 million, 40.
Yeah, they haven't got the money. They want to sell someone like Thomas Partey. They want to move Declan Rice into a 6. They want to get another midfielder in. If they spend 60 million on Kai Havertz, they're not going to go and spend 40 million on the midfield. They want to go big, and they're not the type of team that can spend 100 million twice in a window, So they're going to go and get another Declan Rice 100 million, I think, and then that's it. But because Timber will be back, you'll have Gabriel Saliba, you'll have Ben White, who hasn't got to be replaced. So, especially when they know that towards the end, like obviously another year will be gone on his contract, his value will go up or it will go down, and then when they decide, okay, we need to start buying for the future, then I think they'll show interest in him.
Yeah, I'm really curious if they're really interested in him as a centre back, though, because
I don't think they are.
In the Premier League, I think his profile and the way he's built and stuff, I think it's more suited as a back, to be honest, than as a central defender there. But same as they're doing with Timber a lot, playing him on the right side and stuff. So
the quality is not great at the centre back. The quality for the left foot, because the left foot centre backs are premium in the Premier League. Okay, you don't have a lot. Gabriel's been very good for Arsenal, but Man City are using Nathan Ake still. And whilst I think he's a good defender to an extent, and he suits the Man City role, he plays when he needs to, kind of thing. You get a young, hungry, very quick, very composed young centre back. It's going to go for millions, and I think that it's when they feel like it's time, when they need to start replacing Gabriel, Arsenal that is, they'll do it. But they're moving. I think the way the football's going, you're moving away from your centre back inverted fullbacks. They're going back to traditional double pivots, fullbacks overlapping, and that's just the way football's going because it's transitional now. It's not, let's all have everyone inverted and stuff. Everyone's figured out that you have to drop and play in the low block against Pep and everyone. Now you have to change it. That's why they brought Doku in to run at your man one-on-one. Everyone's going to be traditional, overlapping and running with the ball a lot more. So it's individuality now as opposed to. But Ajax aren't at that stage. We have to be structural until we can get to individuality and freedom, like I just said earlier. So,
yeah. But in summary, I think if they bid more than 75 million euros, something in the line of Frankie kind of amount, I think you should really consider selling him. Although I'm fond of Hato, but this is an amount that you probably cannot decline.
I feel like you should sell him for anything above 60, probably.
Really?
Yeah. Not because he's not going to be worth more than that. We just really need the money, and we have Kaplan, so we should be okay. We also have Die Jansen. We have Butera. We should be fine.
Yeah, but the thing is, I agree with you on a center back. Maybe I agree with you to a certain extent, but the thing is that Hato is also now being used as a left back because there's no confidence in Sosa, for instance. So if we would sell him, we have a problem on the left side.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
but we'd have 60 million to fix that problem.
On the left side, all right.
Imagine having to upload Wijndal, Avila, Sosa, all those left backs that we bought and not playing them.
Yeah, this also is a good one. I like the creativity of some people. Berwijn is saying, hey, Arsenal, we can always switch with Hato for Ødegaard and some pennies. I agree. That's a good one.
Sales the Ødegaard ship.
Yeah, get us Ødegaard and 50 million. That sounds about right.
All right, guys. Okay, so let's talk about Taylor quickly. And what I want to talk about is basically his progress, because Van Schip alluded to the fact after the game that he believes that in the second half of the season, Taylor is the player that made most progress from all the players at Ajax in the second half of the season. Whether that's true or not, that's the first question. Second of all, do you guys? The second question is, are you guys impressed by how he gathered himself and picked himself up after a few months ago, being booed or being whistled at the arena, Johan Cruyff Arena and stuff, because he was having really bad form for quite some time. So what do you guys think of those two questions? Let me go with you first, Luke.
Yeah, I'm really impressed because it takes a certain mental fortitude to come back from a certain length, right? And also I feel like I know there are times when he did play as an 8, he didn't play well, but then I think it also didn't help when he then got played at left wing back and got played as a 6 and and then as a 10 and then gets moved everywhere. And I think the system for the team was for everyone to be able to do a lot of everything. And I feel like Taylor could still be that player, but I feel like Van Schip didn't do a lot of coaching, right? He hasn't done a lot of coaching. Right, it's like a substitute teacher. You've gone there just to watch the class, in a sense, right? In all due respect to him, but he sometimes he looks like he struggles to know what to do. He'd rather play the safe option because there's not a lot of confidence in the team as well. They don't want to play risky passes because you don't want to be the one that loses the ball and you concede, and then everyone blames you. So I can see, he got booed or whistled out for his performances and. He didn't play well, fine. He definitely has improved, and it takes a lot of mental strength to be able to get out of a hole, especially with the fans, and actually show that I can score goals. Play me a bit further forward. I can make these runs, and he has energy to keep doing them. So, and it's not like it's just the goals he's scoring. He's getting in good positions. He hit the bar with a header more recently as well, didn't he? So even late on in the game, he's trying to get places. And yeah, okay, he's not Kevin De Bruyne for sure, but he's still young, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And Van Schip also said, Pierre, by the way, that he became more all-round as a player, but also his leadership qualities. Not so much talking on the field, but also he alluded to the fact that we were basically run down by Feyenoord at the Kuip. But he said that every player was basically giving up, but Taylor was the one that kept going. That's also a positive thing that he saw from Taylor. And he also added to that Taylor really learned from this season, he believes, and we will benefit a lot from him in the future. Do you agree with that?
I kind of agree with that. I mean, he said the second half of the season, and I'm not completely agreeing with that. I think it's about the last 5 games, probably.
Yeah.
But he has really improved, and I think the biggest thing is that it looks like his work ethic has changed. I mean, on the field, he's running everywhere, whereas like weeks ago, I would just point at Taylor and say, "Oh, there's the guy that never runs back again." And I think he reflected on it, and I think he did very well adapting. And he's looking much better. I mean, his technique has always been pretty good, and I think as someone that can carry a ball under Farioli, he could shine.
Yeah.
But I'm also not sure if they would choose to take the money if like a 30, 40, whatever million offer comes in, because we do really need some money.
Yeah.
That will be a tough decision. I would like to keep him, actually. So he did change my mind quite a lot over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's
And
not.
he didn't need an
You know,
interview, did
Ajax.
he, to do so?
Yeah, I just want to go to Ajax. Ajax is not easy, right? I mean, for any player, because this season has been difficult for everyone, but also in his case, and maybe other players as well. But in his case, he had to play different roles as well. He had to
Yeah,
play
I think-
six.
I think the best thing that came out of that weird formation of Van Schip with the 5-4-1 and stuff, that's also the downfall of him coaching, you know, because when he chose for that 5 in the back, it tumbled down, in my opinion. It's not a good choice, and I've been mentioning that a lot. But the good thing coming from that is the way he tried to press with the team. If you remember, Linson on the right and Taylor on the left had to run a lot to close the gaps on those sides in a lot of games. So him playing in that different role and also transitioning back to left back on that left side a few times, maybe learn him what is necessary to carry on the defensive load that is necessary in his role. So I think that is something that maybe opened his eyes, because it wasn't mentioned a lot and seen a lot, but in those games that Linson and Taylor had to cover those gaps, they ran a lot and helped the team out immensely. So this is maybe one of the things that was good from that formation, you know, to maybe be a learning experience.
Yeah, exactly. Before going to the comments, we asked today to the fans on Twitter whether which players they want to keep this summer, right? Going into next year. Of course, that's very difficult because we don't know how much we will get for certain players. But I don't want to ask you the same question. I just want to ask you a slightly different question. Who is the one player, just one player, that you would really want to keep this summer, no matter what? Who would that be? Is it Broby?
Who are you asking?
All three of
I
you?
feel like this is a complicated question because, I mean, we obviously all want to keep Robbie, but then again, I think we all believe that Robbie will stay anyway.
You never know.
But yeah, it should
Well,
definitely be him, I guess.
In theory, everybody is has a price, right? So, but forget what kind of bid we get. In terms of like very influential and important for Ajax for next season, in your opinion, for that role, who is the most important player for you at the moment?
The player I want to keep the most actually would be Kaplan, because if we sell him now, we won't get much money, and that guy is really good.
Okay, he's undervalued in your opinion still.
Yeah, I think he's massively undervalued.
Okay.
I think he's better than Hato. That's it.
Oh wow. Okay.
There's 2 players that come to mind for me, and it's obvious ones. It's for me Hato and Robbie, and probably I think Robbie is more one of a kind for us in the current situation in our team. And we do have a few more flavors also defensively, also with Kaplan coming up, and that we can play on that left center back side. So if I have to choose one, it's Robbie for me, but it's a difficult one because I think Hato has a lot of potential and is also necessary. So those 2 are the only ones in the team that really, really, really want to keep. And there are a few more that I think is okay to go into this transitional to the build-up phase again. But there's a lot that I don't have any problem with to offload.
Okay. Luke?
I'd also really like to keep Ramai as well.
Yeah. Or yeah. Okay.
I think it's obviously really obvious the players that I just said. You know, your Ramai, your Hato, your Bobby. But if we're looking at as we're gonna go with Farioli, hypothetically, going into the new season, people are gonna shoot me, but I would like to see Taylor stay, right? And the reason is because I feel like he has something even a little bit more to offer the team with his work rate, and he can use both feet. And I think his understanding of Ajax DNA, right? He has it, right? So he understands the club. And I feel like if you make the mistake of, we've seen it, you bring in all foreign players, right? All players that don't know Ajax, and look how he turned out the season. So I still feel like you need players that do know the club. But I also feel like if he plays a bit further up, like he has second half of the season, I feel like he can offer still something to the club. But obviously, I feel like players like Bobby are obviously priority ahead of Taylor. But I didn't want to say obvious things.
I understand what you're saying, Luke, and I do agree with you a bit, actually. I've mentioned it also early in the season a couple of times on the stream. Taylor, for me, is a typical kind of player that gets better and performs better with a better team around him. And maybe he's not at that stage yet, at least in the beginning of the season, that he can carry the team on his own. But you can see the last games that he's already evolving, and is more complete in his game. But you can also see those last games, and it wasn't even the prime Ten Hag era, but those last games in the Ten Hag in that season, that he performed quite well. And there was a better team around him with more tactical sound and also better quality. So if you have a rebuild and you can keep him, I think he can flourish.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point. I think Taylor's one of the players that will most improve when Farioli actually implements a sound structure. And I think, and now you guys are going to shoot me, but I think this goes for Soetalo as well. I think he'll be much better next season. That's just a prediction if we don't sell him. I think those two are the players that need some structure like the most out of everyone.
Just a game plan. You play from the back. So Tyler does this. He's not going to try and turn the striker like he always does. If you can't play, you play to the right back if they're inside, or you go back to the keeper, make yourself available. Just simple.
Exactly.
Simple, and then they can go from there. They need to build confidence from a structure, from a nice foundation, build your confidence, and then they can learn how to play, right? But
all right, going to the comments, Jamie is saying Taylor has progressed, but from a 3 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10, it's still not good enough. Not a fan. Steven is saying Taylor progressed. Yes, backwards. Well, that's harsh. Let me see, what else do we have? Berwijn is asking Pierre a question. Don't you think about Taylor that it was partially the tactics as well? I think Ajax already alluded to that. He had been a 6, an 8, and a 10 at the same time.
I mean, yes, it definitely was. I mean, I do think that's why under Farioli he will be better. But I still think that he should have ran more miles over the couple months that we've seen him.
Yeah. Steven is saying Ajax unleash the beast. You look like you're holding a lot in.
Oh man, I'm not unleashing the beast this late in the season, man. I've been holding it together all season, so I'm just looking forward to the break.
One more game.
Again.
Yeah. Berwijn is reacting. One player he wants to keep is Ramai.
Yeah, but he has to do something about this distribution, though, because I've been watching him since Thomas mentioned something a few streams ago, that his build-up play sometimes is not flawless, and I actually focused on it, and he has made a lot of passes straight into the opponent's possession again. So he does have those qualities, but he has a lot of flukes during his games. That's something.
Okay, I kind of agree, but if we sell Ramai, we'll be stuck with Rulli, and his passes are much worse.
This is the area that he needs to improve in, because he looks confident, and he does have a lot of the skill set needed, but then he has those flukes during the game. He needs to get rid of those.
But then again, structure will help as well.
Yeah.
Maybe he has like defenders right beside him on that back line. It's easier.
Yeah, it's not about distribution, but I'm just thinking about how good Ramai was when we played in Norway. Incredible.
There have been too many times where he saved us, man.
That was crazy. That was crazy. Anyways, Jamie is saying Hendo. Steven is saying Hato. So those are the players. And Jamie also, of course, sense of humor. We always appreciate that. The only player that we will definitely keep this summer is Avila.
I think he's a Feyenoord fan.
In the past, we could offload those kind of players to Feyenoord, with...
that would be something.
Yeah.
doing anymore.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Before going there, Lucas is saying, "What do you guys think about Mikautadze's situation?" I had that also on the list, so because somebody is asking right now, let's discuss it quickly. So just a bit of background on the Mikautadze situation. He's been incredible. He's been on fire in the second half of the season in France, scoring 11 or 12 goals, something like that. And Metz still has a chance to avoid relegation. But it's going to be narrow. And according to VE, because I believe they did a research, the clause is 13 million. So the buy option, mandatory buy option is. It's not mandatory. No, it's not mandatory. So Metz can choose to pay 13 million.
Coming back, because I read somewhere that all Metz can also afford him if they relegate.
Yeah, if they relegate.
I believe that's what was the club that's interested in?
Stade de Rennes was interested as well, and allegedly they also had talks with the agent already and stuff. So we don't know, but it seems like it's a dead end. He's not coming back. So your opinion about that? Everything we just discussed.
But it's just easy, you know. It will be smart from Metz to just buy him either way. For 30 million, because with his performance, they can offload him for like 20, 30 million easily. So yeah, exactly. I'm not seeing him coming back, because I think either way they're going to pay those 30 million. And the weird
they haven't lost their mind. They're gonna pay. They're gonna find something to finance the whole thing if they need to. It doesn't matter. Like, he's not coming back.
I'm not so clear that also not all of the payments that Ajax needed to make for the full transfer of Mikautadze has already been paid. So if they offload him for 30 million, you still have like the millions that they had for installments in the future that they have to deduct from that. So it's a lose-lose situation in that.
Yeah, I think the whole decision to loan him out with an option for 30 million is kind of ridiculous. I mean, you bought him for 16, you played him 29 minutes as a striker, and then you loaned him out half a season later. I just think that's a mistake, and I don't want to blame anything, but you hear some rumors that Cruz told Lang to do that, so it's a bit of a weird situation. I did want to touch on the fact that Ajax came out, some kind of sports agency came out saying that they offered their help to Mikautadze, but like through Ajax, and I'm not sure when or with what, but apparently Mikautadze declined, but then also complained that he didn't get any help, so the whole situation is a bit fuzzy. And I'm not sure what went wrong and why he feels like they didn't help him.
Yeah, it's very weird indeed what you're saying.
It's not the only case of this being mentioned by players, because remember the guy from Sevilla? No, the guy from Sevilla.
Ocampos, yeah, he was fuming.
The same a few years ago, also about being all on his own, nobody helping him, and look at how he flourished again in that Europa League run at Sevilla. So he's not the first player saying that. That it's a problem when you come from abroad as a young player.
I also truly believe that it doesn't really matter whether he's right or not, or whether Ajax think they're right. I mean, if he feels that way, they should make it go away, basically. They should change that, because he is worth so much for Ajax. And if you don't treat your players the best you can, it's going to lead to like losses like this. And it's just a shame.
They do it for the Brazilian players with Humberto. Helping them out and stuff. But why not appoint somebody in that role to do it as a whole for all foreign players that come? You know, that is also part of being professional. And it's not the first.
What's the guy from PSV called that they all love? I don't know, but there's one of these guys that has this role, and they all love this guy because he just arranges everything for them. And it makes sense to me. You should arrange everything for your players, because they shouldn't be thinking about that. They should be playing the game. And they should be looking their best possible.
Wasn't there also rumors about Citalo being homesick in the first month that he was over?
Yes, as well.
Yeah, but he debunked it. Yeah, but but he debunked that story.
Oh, that's true, actually, you're right.
Yeah, that was from the Telegraaf and stuff, but he debunked that story. That's not true, he said.
But then again, Akpom also complained about not being able to find a house or whatever.
True.
That's how it goes in the Netherlands, man. Nobody can find houses anymore.
That's true.
You know, I always thought maybe it also has to do with culture, because in the Netherlands, we're always our tendency is always to also, of course, we help, but you have to ask for it, you know. And maybe in other cultures, they expect that help coming either way, or they expect more. You understand what I mean? It's
Well,
not
it's
right or
also
wrong.
very
It's
much that if
also
you
no
offer
matter
help,
how you deal with things.
yeah. No, it's also very much that if you offer help, that they'll say no the first time, and then if you offer it 3 more times, then they'll say yes.
Exactly. Exactly. That's true.
It could just be a cultural difference.
Exactly. All right. Let me go to the comments and then the final topic. Let's go quickly. All right. And then we'll end the session today. BRN is saying, isn't that quite worrying though? Lang being our head of the scouting department, miscalculating his potential. I think he means Mikautadze.
Yeah, I think my point was that I'm not sure whether Lang really made this decision, or he was kind of forced to make a decision and just free up some money for next season because we.
Either way, it's his fuck up, even if he's being forced, because he's the one making the decision. So
yeah. All right, guys, I have to continue. Lucas saying, let's hope Mets can't afford Mikautadze and we can sell or keep him. So yeah, so the money stays with us. That's a good point.
That's never happening.
Jamie is saying, we had David end for that spot. We need a guy like that back. Isn't that what Simmerink, our tennis legend, does? Somebody said tennis legend this week. I had to laugh, but isn't that his role, or is it somebody else? Do you know?
I don't know, man.
You guys still laughing at the tennis legend?
David End was a team manager, so
Okay.
I think he has had a pivotal role in that era. I don't know if Bobby Harms also had a little bit of that role, checking up on the players, because he did, helping them out when they weren't fit. It's also a huge mental part with players, helping them out. So maybe he could do talks and stuff, because I think he had an important role within the club also back in the days. So we've had those kind of persons back then, but I don't know what happened with David, but there was a trainer that got rid of him, right? At a certain point, that didn't want him at the team anymore.
Yeah, I
I
forgot.
don't know which trainer that was,
No.
but I can remember something like that.
All right, Ajax, I really have to go now, and we have still one topic to discuss. We're almost at 1.5 hours. Okay, so please, I know it's very tempting, of course, to react. I get that. All right. Let me see. Anthony is saying John van Loon wanted to help. His daughter-in-law is from Georgia, but Mikautadze refused. That's the story you were alluding to, Pierre.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird because they basically told Ajax they wanted to help him. So they offered their services. But then again, is that how you should get someone like that, or should Ajax search for this person? I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know the details, of course. Yeah. Do you guys still have the trust in Carlos Forbes? Luke, quickly. Carlos Forbes.
I'm obviously, I've not been a fan of his this season, but it's a new manager, means new tactical system, means clean slate for a lot of players. Would be keen to see how he would do under a new manager. Not as of right now. I don't see it, because you normally see at least a little bit, but hopefully he could, because I feel like his pace could be really used well for the press.
I think he'll be decent somewhere else, like Darami, but I don't think he'll succeed here, to be honest.
Okay. Nickname is saying Dutch culture is also okay. It's dinner time, so now please go home so we can eat, which isn't exactly open and welcoming. That's really funny, by the way. Okay. All right. There are a couple of other questions, but I just want to touch upon quickly on Van der Boma interview, and I don't want to talk about the whole interview. I just want to ask your opinion about 2 things. First of all, he said he explained why he didn't have a good season, according to him. First of all, he said injury. Second of all, he said he had difficulty dealing with his substitution role. And the third thing is he said that the lack of depth in the squad is really an issue for him, because then he cannot really play up to his strength, because his passing is his best ability. And now also what he said is that there were times that the spaces in the midfield were so open, so big, and then he drowns. Basically, that's in his situation, the type of player that he is. that's the worst thing that can happen, because then he's not a good player anymore. So quickly on that, reaction for you, Per, then Luke, then Ajax.
Yeah, about the spacing, I mean, it was terrible, but that's a tactical problem, and Van Schip will never admit that. About the depth, not the squad depth, but like players going deep on the field, making runs, I think it's a ridiculous.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think it's a ridiculous statement, because you can run. Everyone can run. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be that good at football. You can still make the run, but nobody's making the run.
So you do agree with what he's saying? You agree that nobody's doing the runs, because that's
No,
what he's
nobody
saying.
is doing the runs. Like, that is true. But he's saying we might not have the players to do those runs, and that's not true. I think
Well,
that's
he
absolute
was
nonsense.
being polite, because he said also, like, they're not doing it, but maybe they don't want to do it.
Yeah, okay. I haven't seen the interview. I've seen the text.
Yeah.
So that might be different, yeah. But Van het Schip, of course, like lately said that in the press conference, I think Thijs Zwagerman asked him the question. And he basically said, yeah, we don't really have players that like to go deep. But I just think that's a non-argument. I mean, it doesn't matter if they like it. Just make them run.
Do you agree, Luke? Do you agree with that statement?
Somewhat. Whilst I agree, you just need legs to run, but also feel like you need a brain when it comes to like staying on side and things like that. You need some sort of intelligence. But I do agree that, you know, Taylor can make runs, and everyone's been booing Taylor off the pitch at one point, and he's making runs into the box. You know, Forbes did it in the Europa League and scored a goal from a run, so they can do it. But I feel like he puts too many eggs in one basket, because I feel like that's his main trick, is a big nice pass. So when he can't do it, what does he offer? Kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he did say about Forbes, by the way. He did mention Forbes. He said, like, one of the only players that really has that quality to go deep or to run is Forbes. But also in his situation, we didn't really fully utilize his strength. You know, and that's the problem that he's mentioning. Not only Forbes, but the whole squad. A lot of players, including himself, has not been utilized up to their strength, and that's what a good team does.
But
That's
if
what
you
a good
compare
coach
this-
does.
Yeah,
No,
he didn't
exactly.
mention the coach, but it's also, you know, like, he is saying something, but he's not really saying exactly, you know, mentioning
Yeah.
the names and stuff. But
all players, and this is the thing about Ajax DNA, is that you have so many players that like to receive the ball to feet, right? That you know, running is running, but your Hotskip likes to get the ball at his feet. Berghaus, Berwijn, Robbie, right? All these players like to get the ball to their feet. So why did you get a player like Van der Boomen in? If you want players that can run and he has foot, you know what I mean? You either get the players that can run to suit him, or he doesn't come, and you have players that suit someone else in midfield. So
Ajax,
Yeah, that's fair. But then again, they can run. Like,
Whoa.
just make them. Like, Hots can run, Bergwijn can run, Robbie can run, Taylor can run. It doesn't really.
yeah.
I just don't like the statement. Like, they might not be perfect, and they might not be as fast as some other player, and they might not time it as well. But you could at least make the run to create the space. But they're not doing that either. I just don't like it. I feel like that's just a tactical failure, basically.
Ajax. Sorry, you have to wait a little bit.
I actually agree with the interview that he gave, and I agree with everything he said by the way he analyzes the things that he stated in that interview. So he was also critical towards himself. So it's not only the things that he exposed that is wrong with current tactics and with the team, but also critical towards himself. So I think he was spot on with his analysis, and also the way he explained with that the type of Ziyech could flourish at that right side, because you had a Promes that always went deep and went to the back line, you know, so that you had that versatility in the squad. Also with the Robbie falling back, being that, you know, target man, flicking off the ball, holding the ball. You had a Donny van de Beek in that era that penetrated the box and goes deep. Those certain things are necessary for him to flourish and make use of his biggest asset, that it is his passing, you know. But he gets exposed in all kind of ways in this Ajax, because everything that happens in this formation and with this team, his flaws suffice. So I agree with the way he analyzes it, and only he cannot change it on his own the way the team plays this season. So it's actually a bad fit. But also what was very clear what he said was he was the first signing coming in, and they said that not a lot of players would leave, and then this huge amount of players left and huge amount of new players came in. So it's quite a difficult situation for him because he was the first one to get on board. And the situation was totally different at the end of the season. So maybe his qualities in that new group of players isn't the best fit because the things necessary for him to flourish aren't in the team at the moment. But in a different situation with a different team next season, he could be maybe more pivotal for us.
No, it's good that you also said that. That's a very good point that he mentioned also that when he came in, he was the first signing. So his understanding was that a lot of players will stay. There won't be a lot of players being sold. And he said like some players being sold that really affected the team. And he actually mentioned specifically also Kudus at the end in August being sold. That had a really huge impact in his view, of course. All right.
Kudus was the only one keeping us alive at that point.
At that, especially in Europe. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let me go to the comments quickly, guys. Millennium was saying, we can clearly see from the Schip had problems with many players. He hates Branco, Medic, Vos. Well, I don't know if we can draw that conclusion, to be honest. But all right. Jamie saying Branco from the Boomen is very realistic and straight to the problems, straight to the point. Yeah, captain level. Yeah. Biren is saying...
He's not a captain. He can't lead the team.
No, but
he doesn't say anything on the pitch.
He analyzes Spear. The way he analyzes and tells in that interview what is wrong tells me something about your personality, that you are able to read the game and to read what. I'm not saying he's captain material leading the team in the pitch, but at least the way he views and watches the game and can expose what is wrong, also besides himself and for himself, shows me some sort of maturity. And ability to read the game.
Yeah, and I want to add.
I agree on that, but I don't think that has much to do with being a good captain. I think you need to be vocal on the team and you need to give clear instructions, and he's not a guy that can do that.
All right. But the only thing that I would want to say as well is that, and I don't want to throw Berwijn on the chopping block again, but just a comparison. Berwijn, his reaction. I don't know if you caught that. Post-match interview with Mike Verwij, in which he asked him about the red card, whether he felt guilty about it or something. Oh no, it was unnecessary. And then he got into an argument. He did argument like, what was unnecessary? What do you think it was a red card? In Bergwijn's interviews so far, he's never self-reflective or looking very critical at himself. And maybe he does, but he doesn't say it. And if you look at the article of Football International about Van der Boomen, we didn't really touch upon it. But he kept saying, I really didn't have a good year this year. Let me be clear about that. You know, I had 2 good years at Toulouse, but this year was not the year that I was hoping for, and it's also because of me. I've never heard him say that.
I mean, like self-reflection, he's like so clear. I mean, he's so much better than Berwijn. I think even as a captain, he would probably be better than Berwijn, but I still don't think he's a captain-type player. He's not a leader on the pitch. He's a very intelligent player.
Good to say also, Pierre, because like I said, with the flaws he has that get exposed within this team, the way we play, the players around him, in a team that do have the ingredients for him to flourish, he could maybe be that leader, because other aspects that's necessary to be a leader, he does have. But in the role that he has now, in this team, it's not possible. But for me, he's more of a leader than other players that we have in the team. If I had to choose a captain from the group that we had at the beginning of the season, Branco would be one of those players that I would maybe make a captain. Not a Berwijn, not a Berghuis, you know? So tell me another player within the group that's more suitable, besides Hendo, of course, that got in later, but there aren't many.
I actually believe Berghuis would be a better captain, but he didn't want to be the captain, so that's a different kind of discussion. Yes, I also kind of agree with you that his role in this system is kind of ridiculous. It doesn't work for him, but I don't agree that it has to do with the players. I think it has to do with the coaching and the tactics, because like I said, like Promes can make that run, but Berwijn can make the same run. He's just not doing it. And if he's not doing it and you gave him that instruction, then you should sub him off and sub someone else on. it's not hard to go deep on the field. It's not hard to make a run. You can still do it.
Okay. All right, guys. Let's conclude the session. A couple of final comments, and then there's one question, Per, I want to ask you because somebody asked a question. I want your reaction on that one. RB is saying, let the new coach please decide which players he wants to use or not. Fair. That's a good point. Jamie is saying Forbes is the only one on the wings that has depth in the squad. That's what Van der Boomen basically also said, which is clearly to see, of course. What else before I go to the question? Hold on. Oh, we have two questions. Okay, all right. All right, let me do the two questions. So the first one, Per, is regarding what are your thoughts on Mislintat signing? Well, we don't know if it's Mislintat, yes or no, but signing the Hercules player. Is he doing that on purpose just to screw with Ajax?
I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I don't think he's that kind of person, but it is kind of funny and it kind of looks like a jab to Ajax. I also heard rumors that Mislintat wasn't the guy who actually signed him. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, but possibly, but it does reflect the fact that he was watching the Ajax game.
Yeah, he probably was. But then again, Mislintat is the kind of guy that still keeps an eye on the players he bought because he just wants to see what they did well and what they didn't, and also reflect on his own performance, I guess.
Hopefully he brings in Sosa.
Wouldn't mind that.
Berwijn is saying, I like Branco, though a solid player. I just don't think he's the right fit for Ajax, especially under Farioli, where you need a fast handling speed and athleticism. Yeah, I tend to agree with that, but you never know how it works out. But yeah,
We do need somebody who is good at progressive passing, though. And
because at the same time, I would think Silvano Vos would maybe, he has to make a couple of development steps, but I think Vos would probably be somebody that could flourish under Farioli. But
he's at least somebody that fits the Ajax DNA with his style of play, because he's always trying to look forward for a solution. And we do not have many players that do that. I'm not saying he's been successful at it, but it is one of his best traits in his game. Yeah. Receiving the ball, looking for a solution forward, skipping lines. And this is something that is necessary to break other teams also.
I agree with you, but I also don't really think Niche is a team that really made use of progressive passing that much. I mean, we had players like Rosario, Sanson, and Kefren Turam, and they're not the players that play balls like Branco does. So they're more short passing kind of players, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. We've come to the very last comment and question. So last match against Vitesse on Sunday. Predictions, guys. Quick round. Ajax, you go first.
I don't care. I really don't care. The season is over. 3-0 for Ajax.
Yeah. Luke?
3-1 Ajax.
Pierre?
We're playing away, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-3. I think it's over for both teams, but I think Vitesse will still try to show that they love the fans, basically. I mean, it might be their last game as a club ever.
Yeah, and we might have a lot of rotation players playing or something.
Yeah, maybe if Pasveer is in the goal, he can help them out because of the sentiment.
Maybe
he actually contributed towards their goal, getting money from the fans and people to help out. So
yeah, can I get from, I don't know if I can get the result from the poll? Do we know what the vote?
I think it was somewhere in the high 80s that they are for Farioli, and somewhere in 12% or something, or 15% against.
Okay, so most people are Farioli in. I thought it would be much more balanced, but all right. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream. This was by far the longest stream we ever had. Thank you guys for that. We'll be back on match day. I think Sahbi is up next, so he can Mr. I told you so. So he can talk about a couple of things as well, and then I'll see you then. Take care, guys. Have a nice evening, and thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Ajax. Thank you, Luke. See you. Bye.